Hello, class, and I wanted to provide you guys with a short lecture that goes into what exactly Adobe Connect is and how to use it. I think there's still a lot of confusion out there, and seeing as in the next month we're going to have some synchronous sessions, some group meetings through Adobe Connect, and other things like that, I wanted to provide you guys a way, a kind of a way to look at Adobe Connect in a different way than just a place I'm forcing you to go to. Um, so if you have any questions about this, please let me know. As always, I will be on in our meeting room, in our class meeting room, during my office hours. So you can come on there, play around with the platform, and ask me questions at the same time if you choose. So just to give a quick overview, and then again, any questions, let me know. So we are using Adobe Connect because it gives us access to real quick, because it'll give us access to an online meeting place where you can go to see me during office hours, since I don't keep physical office hours in my office in Patterson Office Tower. But you can come see me here at Mondays from 12 to 2:30 or Wednesdays 3 to 5:30. Okay. But we'll also be using this so that you can record at least 2 group meetings during the formal executive proposal unit. Record at least 2 meetings, like so the whole recording. But you'll also can use it to save meeting minutes, which I will ask for on a regular basis when you get into your teams, meeting agendas, and other documents as explained in your textbook for the ISR and the FEP, like the schedule and that sort of thing. To get to Adobe Connect, and again, this is something most of you haven't found your way there, but if you haven't yet, here's how to do it. You go to connect.uky.edu, or you follow the link that I provide on your syllabus and in the Canvas shell. So you use your link blue username and password. You find links to the course meeting rooms, okay? Adobe Connect is one type of program used by businesses to conduct meetings and interviews. So this is something that's used in the business world, which is important for my business writing students, but it's also something that's useful in academic settings. So if you're going to be at UK for a little bit longer, then this is still something that you might want to take advantage of. Even if your professor doesn't use it, you can still have access to this because it's a UK service, not professor designated, if you have collaborative projects in the future. Okay, so learning how to use this can be pretty useful. So when you're doing this, there are 3 ranks or 3 different ways that you can participate. Okay, you can be a participant, which if you came to the synchronous session early on in this course, then you were listed as a participant. A participant is basically someone that's just there to see what's going on. So they have control, or they can chat, okay? They can participate in classroom chats or in meeting chats. They can view the share pod. They can't do anything with the share pod as far as add to it. They can control the volume because it's your own computer. And they can use raise hand feature, the raise hand feature. Now the raise hand feature is so that you can let someone know that you have a question or that you have a concern. Okay, it's a way to flag for the presenter or the host that something is going on, that you have a question or whatever. All the raise hand feature is that you go and you click on this button. Okay, here's the volume. Okay, there's also the microphone and webcam features, which are not available to participants, but once you get into the presenter side and that sort of thing, then it gets more involved. So this raise hand will flash for in this area right here, which lists everybody that's in the meeting. It'll flash that there's something that's important going on with this person if you hit the raise hand. Okay. You've seen the chat window. This whole feature right here, is called a layout, but the layout that they're showing you is I think it's the collaboration layout. So you have the share pod, or where a document is being shared or an image is being shared. Okay, you have a webcam. pod, okay? All these little windows are what Adobe calls pods, okay? And then you have a file share pod, all right? You can switch the layout if you don't like what something is, and so you can switch to discussion or to, I think it's sharing or something like that. But it'll change the size of the pods and move things around. You can also mess with it a little bit more if you choose, if you feel confident about that. So this is the basic level. This is what a lot of people will start out as. When we get into the team meetings and that sort of thing, you will all be entered in as presenters. Okay, that way you have a little more flexibility on what you can do. Okay, presenters can chat, they can share documents in the share pod. Okay, that's here, they can share them. So before you could only view what was shared. Here you can add stuff to it. All right, you can share files. Okay, so if you're working collaboratively and you say, okay, here's my team charter idea, or here is my ISR, or here is my rhetorical analysis, that can all go in here, all right, and then you can share it with other people in your team. Okay, you can control volume. You can use the audio feature. Okay, the audio feature, which means you can talk to each other in the meeting. All right, so it's basically like having Skype or a Google Hangouts, but with a lot more involved applications. So there's a sharing documents. There's also share screen. You can share the screen that you're working on so they can see if you're trying to show them something about a website that you find interesting that would be useful for either in Word 111, the issue-oriented website, or in Word 203, the digital media project for your marketing strategy. Okay, so here you have a little more ways to be involved. Again, you have the audio, you have the sharing, you have the webcam if you choose. Okay, and again, I said a webcam was necessary so that you guys could put together presentations, but it's also necessary so that you guys can see each other when things are getting a little bit confusing, because a lot of times if you're using chat, it can be kind of confusing, so it's easier to talk. So using audio or using webcams can help you collaborate a little more effectively, even if you are separated by miles or, you know, states or whatever. And then you can still use the raise hand feature on this. So just pointing this stuff out. Here's the share pod again. Here's the chat. That is my mistake. That is not supposed to say audio feature. That's supposed to say file sharing. This is the files pod. Here's the audio feature, and here's the webcam up here. All right. And again, this is still in the collaboration layout. But again, you can change that up. So you can, the final thing you have, the final level of participation is host. And when it comes to our class meeting room, I'm going to be the host. It just gives me a little bit more flexibility on what's going on. But the host for your team meeting will include your project manager. Okay, whether in Word 111 or Word 203, your team manager or your project manager for your team will be the host for the meeting room. Okay, the benefit of the host is that they get all of the same things that the presenter gets, but they also have the ability to manage meetings. Okay, so that means you can record the meetings, like I'm going to require you to do, and you can change attendee status. Okay, so this is a way to say promote someone that, say if you're the project manager but you know that you are going to miss a meeting, you can promote someone to the host position so that they can run the meeting that you're going to miss. Or if you find that someone is having real problems with their microphone on their computer and it's just causing this droning noise, which happens occasionally, you know, that it's because they have audio control because they're a presenter. Okay, you can downgrade them for a little bit to a participant where you can't hear what they have to say. Okay, but this is a way to kind of figure out and delegate information in this online space. You can also manage pods, which means you can choose which pods are visible. All right, and I'll get into that in just a second. But instead of maybe a share pod, you want to do a share screen pod. And so this will give you the opportunity to do that. You can also email pod contents, which I'm going to ask for meeting minutes. And so all you need to do is in this little note area down here, this note pod, you can record the meeting minutes and then just email that off to me. And that'll be enough. I don't need it formatted anything special. I know it comes from the project manager. I'll see it and I'll check off on it, okay? You could also do that, for instance, if you're the host and you see some questionable behavior on chat that you don't know what to do about, you can shoot me a question or email it to yourself and save it for later if you have other issues, okay? Or if something important was talked about in the chat, you want to save it for later, okay? These are all things that you could possibly have at your disposal, okay? So this is the different levels of participation, but you also have the layout itself, okay? So I mentioned the collaborative layout, which is this, okay? But you also have the sharing layout, which is the first one that most of you saw if you first logged in. It's kind of the default, all right? If you do not see this screen right here, if you do not, or this bar, if you do not see this bar, then all you need to do is go up here to layouts and you can see how to, or you can bring the bar back up, but you can also see the different layout choices. So sharing will bring the focus to the share pod and kind of minimize everything else. If you are trying to show your classmates, or your teammates rather, what you are doing on your ISR or what you are doing with your rhetorical analysis, then you could switch to the sharing pod and they could stay on the collaboration pod, because this layout is not universal. It's not going across the different computers. It should only apply to your computer. So you can mess with it a little bit to bring up more of a presence for something in particular. So if I'm talking about my document, then I'm going to bring up the sharing layout so that I can see exactly what I'm talking about, and they can bring in the chat a little bit more, but I don't have to worry about notes and I don't have to worry about file sharing, not at that moment, okay? There's also the discussion layout, okay, which looks a lot like, just on face value, like the collaboration layout, but here we have a webcam as the focal point instead of the share pod, okay? Now the discussion pod is useful if you're having a team meeting, but it's a little bit harder to do if you're trying to collaboratively write something or put something together. And then you can also ignore these layouts and create your own layout if you choose, if you're the host, if you're the project manager. But if you're creating from among these different pods. So you have the share pod, which I've already mentioned 100 times already. You share your screen, you share your documents, you share a whiteboard where you can write notes. Okay, I find the whiteboard to be more trouble than it's worth. I would highly recommend using chat or notepad if you're going to do something like that. But you have the chat pod, which is like any instant messenger service. You have the notes pod, where take meeting minutes, set an agenda, leave questions. Okay, this will stay there and it doesn't scroll away as easily. So chat pod, it'll scroll like any, instant messaging service. It'll scroll up as people add to it. But this will kind of allow you to focus in instead of talking about it. You focus in on what you want to deal with. And then the file pod, where you share files with the group, save them in meeting space. Okay, so you save them here. You would also want to save them elsewhere just in case, but this is a good way to share things online without having to use Google Drive or something like that. So managing the pods, all you got to do, there are different ways to do it, but there's usually a menu. Well, on the menu overall, there's the pods menu, and all you got to do is go down here and it says manage pods, okay? What you'll have an option to do, you can bring in new pods or create new pods or new areas to work with, and you can rename them. So let's say I want 2 notepads open, one that has questions, running questions that we have, so research questions or that sort of thing for my issue-oriented website or for my marketing plan. So I want to keep that going. I don't want to delete that. Don't want it to get caught up with other things. But I also want a notepad for meeting minutes. Well, then I just create 2 notepads, and one I title meeting minutes, and one I title research questions. And then everybody in your group can add research questions and add to the meeting minutes. So it's not just like a one-on-one file thing where I'm working on it on my own and then uploading it, but you're working collaboratively to develop this information. That's why you might rename things. So if you want to create 2 different file areas, one for research that you found, so if you want to upload PDFs, and one for documents that you're creating. That's a way to do this, and you can mess with this as you will. Okay, some pods you don't really want duplicates of. Chat, you don't really need duplicates of. Share pod, maybe you will want duplicates of if you're sharing more than one document, or you want to share your web space or your desktop as well as your document. So you can play around with it as you will. All right, but again, only the host has the ability to do this. So if you want someone else to manage and host the Adobe Connect, but you're the project manager, that's up to you and your team. You can figure that out. Let someone else that has that's a little more tech savvy deal with this if you choose. You just promote them to host, and that's one of the benefits of being host is being able to change an attendee status. Okay, so this is managing the pods. Using the pods, okay, every pod has a pull down dialog box. Okay, so this is the chat pod. The box will let you hide the pod. Okay, and I'll tell you right now, hiding is great, but it's not intuitive bringing it back up. But either way, hiding, so minimize, or you could also maximize it and take over the screen. Okay, so you get rid of the layout and you just see the chat. Okay, you can email, like I mentioned before, you can email the chat to yourself. You can change the size, so maybe it's hard for you to read, so you want to make it bigger, or it's hard for you to read because it's so broken up, you want to make it smaller, whatever. Okay, and you can timestamp, and this is useful. Timestamping is useful when you are carrying on a long conversation where people are jumping in and out of the meeting instead of everybody coming together at the same time. That way you get a sense of how long something's taking. Okay. So this is just the chat pod, but every one of them has a drop-down menu, and you guys know how to use that sort of stuff. So real quick, this is for the host, but it's useful for all of you to know in case you get promoted up to that. You want to record a meeting, you want to pull down the meetings tab. Okay, you can see it here, and you just click record meeting, you give it a name, and then there'll be a red dot in the top right, and it'll tell you that it's recording. Okay, but if you're doing this, record the meeting, then stop the recording. Okay, that's fine. Do not never hit end meeting. If you end the meeting, that's it. All your work has disappeared. The meeting is shut, and it's hard to reopen it. And even then, a lot of the chat will disappear and that sort of stuff. End meeting means close down the meeting room. Okay? These meeting rooms are open perpetually until the end of the semester, when I will go in and close down each of the meetings, or end each of the meetings. But you don't want to worry about that until, well, you don't want to worry about that. Don't worry about it. I got it. I'll end the meetings. If you hit this, let me know, okay? Because then I will create a new meeting for you, okay? And include all of your teammates in it. But this is something that you're going to want to pay attention to. Do not end the meeting, okay? Okay, you can exit Adobe Connect, that's fine. You can stop saving a meeting, that's fine. If you close down and exit Adobe Connect, then you're ending your part of the meeting, but it's still going on the UK servers. So keep that going, Okay, that way you guys can keep collaborating in this space and not have to worry about losing any information. Okay, if you need anything else, check out the Academic Technology Training Library webpage. Okay, you can see the address right here. Otherwise, just search for UKY Academic Technology Training Library. Okay, or again, you can ask me. Okay, that's the end of this short presentation. I hope this helps out a little bit. Let me know if you have any other questions, and good luck with Adobe Connect.